On Wednesdays, we knit pink, and every other day of the week too. Okay, so specs for round 2 dropped during the night for me, and I was just starting to fill out my notebook when the pattern actually dropped. So the sock that we're using this time is the yarn for sock H, which is a single colour project. So we've done colour work quite a bit now. We've done the slip stitch motifs last time, and then the qualifier was obviously colour work. This time solid. It looks like it's going to be a lacy cable kind of pattern. Lots of twisted stitches. All looks very, very nice. So I had planned to use, I had it down as Mamie and Florrie, which is a BFL Merino 4-ply called Adventure Sock. And in the colourway Meet Me at Sacre, which is this really, really gorgeous, semi-solid, slightly speckled pink, which I think actually fits really, really well with the name of the pattern. And I did have a note down saying perhaps using remnants of a different skein, but I'm going to stick with the one I've got originally. So in my notebook, I had a big section towards the front, just where when the specs were dropped for all the patterns, I just kind of listed everything out so I could figure out what I had and what I wanted to allocate to it. So I've got those kind of records there. So along with the section at the front of the book where I had like all of the specs for all of the different patterns and yarns allocated and everything, I then also set up project pages in my knitting journal as well. So you can see here I've got it down as Sock Madness round 2. It's sock H, and the designer is Zhuravleva, and the pattern is called Pretty Privilege, which, yeah, this works. And what I do is I write down the date I started it. I've got an entry there so I can see when I cast it off, what needles I like. I always do my socks pretty much on 2.25 unless there's a lot of colour work or something else involved. I've got down the yarn I use with the colour work, the colourway name. I've got the size I'm going to knit, and then what I also have is obviously when you're with doing Sock Madness, the initial email you get with the pattern, it also tells you what the minimum requirements are. So for this one, size medium, we need 4 full pattern repeats, toe, gusset, heel as written, leg and foot as written to meet this minimum number of repeats, and how much I need to do for the cuffs. And then I also make a note of things like what pictures we need. So they always want the pictures taken in knitting direction, which for these pair of socks means that the toes will be at the bottom and they are knit up to the cuff. And then side views, front left, and then images lying the socks flat. So front, back, but when you do the back, the heel needs to be folded down to the sole so you can see all the back of the leg decorations. So I tend to write all these down, and then I will use the space in the notebook just to add in things like stitch repeats, how I knit the toe. It just means I don't have to always rely on having a computer on my phone and the digital pattern in front of me. I can work from the notebook. I quite like redrawing charts, which might sound a lot of work, but it often helps me make sense of what the chart is doing. And sometimes I find it easier because I can kind of visualize it more easily. Plus I can do them at a much bigger scale and things. If it's a very, very complicated chart, I might use my phone and work from there. But generally I just redraw things. And that's one of the reasons why I've got this clip on the note. I have charts from other projects that I've worked on this year, and I don't want to share any of those because they're not my copyright and that's not permitted. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I've got my yarn, I've got my needle kit, I've got my project bag, and I will be casting this on later on today. I'm not going to do it just yet because I've got a few things I need to do, but I'll be casting on later. And it also means that a lot of the very fast knitters or people who've jumped on the pattern straight away, they've often asked questions already, and it means I can keep an eye on those threads before I begin and make sure I don't mess up. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to go do what I need to do, and then I've got some prime knitting time ahead of me today. So that'll be really, really nice. So I will catch up with you later when I actually cast on. So apologies for the lighting. It is currently Monday evening. Sock dropped yesterday afternoon. I did get the toes cast on yesterday. I didn't film any of that because I was tired. But basically I got the toes done and a couple of rows of the first chart repeat done. So I got that kind of set up. And then today I have just been working my way through the first repeat of the chart, and I'm now partway through the second. and I should be starting the gussets soon. I've had quite a lot of time over the last couple of days just with being out at the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase on Saturday. Means that thanks to CFS I have to take it a bit easier, so I have been knitting on these in between naps. I will hopefully get a little bit more of them done this evening, but currently one of the issues I have with my condition is that my hands get really tired. So currently my thumb on my right hand and weirdly the little finger on my left hand are starting to hurt, so I'm going to take a break. I might get some more done today, I might not, but either way I'm actually really impressed with how much progress I've made. I also think that the yarn colour I chose with that I had pre-selected basically for this pattern kind of goes really well with the pattern name. I think Pretty Privilege and this pattern go really well together for some reason. But yeah, in update and other knitting news, I keep finding beads from the last pair of socks everywhere. Not ones that are falling off the socks, but ones that obviously escaped while I was knitting. I've currently found 3 beads today, including a bead that doesn't match anything that I've knit recently, so I'm not entirely sure where that one's come from. But yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be finding beads for weeks to come. So yeah, sounds a bit different, but yeah, I'm happy with my progress. I've just been on Ravelry and I've seen that someone has finished this pair already, which is kind of terrifying because I can't imagine being able to knit that quickly. But well done to them, and I shall keep plugging along and hopefully I'll get a bit more done today, but if not, I'm happy with my progress. It is now Thursday 26th of March, and as you can see I have a lot more sock. I have worked both socks through the heels. I've got the gussets, heels and gussets done, so all the increases, and I am now working my way up the leg, and I have started the 4th repeat of the chart, which is the last one I need to do, and I'm a part way through that. I've got to finish that off, do a bit more, I think a few more rows of the chart that's like an ending section, and then it's just the cuff. I'm quite pleased with how I've done this. I ended up, I have been knitting these 2 at a time on circular needles, but when I got to doing the heels and the gussets and the gusset flaps, I split them onto 2 separate needles and just worked them in tandem, and then transferred them back onto magic loop 2 at a time once those were done. Yarn is going down. It's often the case with things like cable and cables. It uses up yarn a bit, but doing well there. I'm actually using my yarn bowl for once because it's now empty. And yeah, I mentioned having a bit of a thumb problem the other day, and someone suggested ring splints, and I had a look online, and they are meant to help with things like hypermobility and stuff, which I do have. But the ones that were really affordable looked like they were drop shipped and the reviews weren't good. And I remembered I had some Bake at Home Fimo type clay. So I made some little rings. I did a few different styles, and this one is just like an overlapped loop, but it actually really helps. So I'm using this. It's a little bit thick, so I'd probably have a go at making another one a bit thinner, but I've been finding it actually quite a lot of help. And I do have more clay left, so I'll probably be playing around with a few different styles of those to see if I can get some more. But yeah, so can recommend if you have issues like that, but okay, if it means I can knit more comfortably and I'm not suffering hand pain, I'm all for it. So very late on the evening of the 26th, I finished my socks, I submitted them, and in the morning I woke up to news that I had made it through to round 3. So I'm incredibly pleased to say that the socks got me through to the next round, and I really enjoyed knitting them. I'm so happy with the yarn I picked. I still think it's very funny that Pretty Privilege and pink went together. But no, just really happy with the socks. I knit them 2 at a time, as you probably saw from the previous clips, and I did that all the way through, except for the heels, where I find it easier to do heels and gussets and everything separate because it means the needles don't distort or anything. But yeah, so these used just over half a skein of yarn, so not a massive amount. The yarn was really nice to work with. So I'm really pleased actually is that the Woolly Good Gathering is coming up later this month, and the dyer who did these, Mamie and Florrie, will be back there, and I'm thinking that I might need some more of their sock yarn in my stash. So while I was knitting these particular socks, I also did something a little bit different, and I have a time tracker app on my phone. I'm doing a bit more freelance work again and I need something to log. And it struck me, after I saw another post in one of the forums on Ravelry, that it could be quite fun just to see exactly how long these socks took. And I could set it up very, very straightforward. I'll put a name of the tracker down below because I can't remember the name of it off my head. I think it's Toggle. But I just used that, set it up, and logged it over the days I was knitting. And yeah, so it took me about 24 hours, which I found quite interesting. So it's a full day. So if I didn't sleep, I could probably finish these in a day, which does not sound like a very sensible idea. So I'm glad I split it up. But yeah, I'm tempted to keep tracking that in future rounds just to see how it differs. Obviously, these particular socks, with them just being one colour, I find them a lot more straightforward. If it's colour work or something like that, I can imagine that slowing me down. And I think a lot of the ones coming have got multiple yarns used for them. So it'll be interesting to see how it varies. So yeah, so that was quite interesting. And the other thing is that because I finished these socks in time and got through, and I finished my previous round sock, I also have bonus socks that I've been working on. So the first ones were the Dragon Princess socks, and that's by the designer Another Eternity. Sorry, I'm just referencing my book here. And I cast these on in the size large because there was a few people online who said that the lace motif wasn't particularly stretchy. I'm not sure if I did something different or wrong, but mine are very stretchy. So that's good, I guess. And I did these, so a little bit more of like an ankle style sock. And they're called Dragon Princess because you've got a combination of dragon stales on the top and princess soles on the bottom where you've got the pearl side out. And amazingly, this is the first time I've ever actually done a princess sole, which surprised me. There was an option to do intarsia on the heel, and I tried to do that repeatedly and failed, and I decided since these were bonus socks, I did not need to do the contrast heel and just knit them for enjoyment. So I ended up just doing the contrast colour on the cuff. And for these ones, I used Life in the Long Grass 4-ply, their 4-ply sock. I'm not quite sure if it's got a specific name. And this is in the colourway Starboard. And then for the cuffs, I actually used the same yarn I used for my Quasar socks, which is the Cookson Crafts sock in silver. So yeah, very fun little knit. So those were the bonus socks that came out after round 1. And these are the bonus socks that came out after round 2. And these are Quadrilateral Thinking by Shelby Dyas. And they are so much fun. So these are worked from the cuff down. And you do the cuff and then you work these mitered squares sort of one square at a time. And then you've got the heel gusset, slip stitch heel, and then you've got a textured pattern over the foot. So these are in Ginger's hand-dyed Sheepish sock, which is surprisingly hard to say. Don't ask me how many times I've tried to say that name on camera. I am not saying it again. And this is in the colourway Burgh, and this was done for an Edinburgh yarn crawl that she and the other yarn stops in Edinburgh hosted quite a few years ago. So this has been sitting in my stash for quite a while. And it's this really fun blend of turquoise, pink and purple. And for some reason, the pooling worked beautifully. So I actually have a repeating pattern on both socks, both sides. I couldn't have planned this better. I think they're absolutely fantastic. And that was a really lovely surprise. But these were so much fun to knit and they're really lovely and squishy and I'm very, very happy. So yeah, so that was the second pair of bonus socks. And as of this afternoon when I'm filming this bit, I am currently eagerly awaiting the next round of the Sock Madness competition. I think this round finishes probably about now, based on my current time zone. So it'll be very interesting to see when the next pattern comes out and what it will be. And I look forward to sharing that with you. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!